Welcome to Positive Business Action, the podcast where we explore real strategies, real stories, and real solutions to help you grow a stronger, more profitable business. Each episode, we break down practical ideas that you can actually use, from marketing and guest experience to operations, team culture, and long-term growth. Whether you run a farm, manage an attraction, or just love the business side of making memories for guests, you're in the right place. Let's jump right in. Welcome back to Positive Business Action. Today we have a wonderful guest, Kim Ayers from Risk Services Levitt. Kim, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Kim. I'm from Risk Services Levitt out of Louisiana. I think y'all have seen me around for a little bit.
Yes, indeed. Kim, I have known you now, I don't even know how many years, but swooped in to get us set up. And if you don't know what Risk Services is, we're not trying to bury the lead. We're talking about something super sexy, super exciting, the one place where people are like, how can I spend more money? That's right, it's liability insurance. Cue the trombones. Wow. Is the trombone, is that the usual insurance welcome?
You either
Oh my
love me
goodness.
or you hate me, but eventually you're going to need me.
That's what I say to my wife most mornings. That's fantastic. They're gonna love me or hate me, but eventually you're gonna need me, baby. That's right. Oh my goodness. That is crazy. So John, tell us what we're talking about today with Miss Kim.
So to start off, we're going to go back to the beginning. So someone that's brand new to agritourism, what are some of the risks that they're taking that they don't even realize they're taking on when they start?
I think the biggest thing that changes everything is when you start bringing the public onto your property. Your homeowners doesn't like people outside of friends and family. Farm policies very often are not geared toward the general public coming onto your property. So that's when you bridge out into commercial liability more so than a farm.
And I guess, does it matter? I'm sure some people out there might be thinking, well, I'm not charging them. They're just coming to pick their own, right? And maybe that only applies if I'm charging them a ticket price.
I would disagree because they're still the general public. They're not friends and family. And the capacity that your homeowners or your farm is written in really doesn't consider that. Not usually.
So then how should they prepare? How should the operators prepare when they are the public facing and they don't have just friends and family there?
I think the moment that you are considering letting the public come onto your farm, you need to be looking for some kind of a commercial liability, whether that's with your current farm policy, farm carrier that will allow it, that it's called an appetite, or if it's a completely separate policy.
Because some people might think, well, my farm's covered. I've had my fire protection. It has some liability in it. Well, I'm just doing farming stuff here. What's the difference?
Yeah, that's kind of the devil's in the details. There's farm liability and then there's commercial general liability. And the farm liability is not meant to take care of people that are coming out. Farm liability is meant for, like, if your cow gets out on the road, overspray, that type of thing. Those carriers are structured to handle those risks. They're not set up to have a kid trip in a ditch.
Gotcha. Yes, the old kid trip in the ditch. That's why we got rid of that attraction, which we called ditch jumping.
Uneven ground.
No, it was a big hit with the kids, but not all of them made it across. So just run us out through some of the policies, because I know, because I am an operator, I feel like I have got to be as overinsured as anyone is. And if you added all of this stuff up, it's pretty wild, right? I mean, I've got a farm policy. Between our three businesses, we have a farm policy, a fleet policy, a liquor liability policy. We've got a workers' comp policy, and then we've got general liability policies and umbrella policies. So just kind of give us the little rundown of like a little checklist of what people need to be thinking about in addition to the general public. But now, instead of just them and their son and their family working, now they may have 20, 30 part-time people helping them out.
And adding to that, the entities. Are you a sole proprietor? Are you an LLC? Are you leasing your land? Like, the spaghetti is enormous. So at the very, very least, you need general liability. if you're doing agritourism. If you are actually farming, in addition to that, you should have farm liability. I have plenty of clients, they're only carrying the general liability to cover the operations. And then property covers your buildings. Inland marine covers your stuff, your tractors and things like that. Sometimes your attractions, if you had a super mega slide, that could go on property or that could go on inland marine, depending on the carrier. Workers' comp is highly regulated by the state that you're in. Some states you have to carry work comp. Some states you write it through the state. And the fun and very interesting part of agritourism is we're not either side of the ditch. We're not this really simple commercial business and we're not wholly ag. So being able to cover what we do on both sides can be really challenging because especially with the employees, your seasonal ones, they're not so bad because they're only coming in for the high season, but if they're also farm workers, that's a completely different striped animal. So it gets to be kind of challenging. And then the autos, who owns it? Is it the farm? Is it a personal auto? Is it business use? Is it commercial? I take a lot of time.
That's right. Well, and there are different things to consider. We've got we've got attractions and, like you say, all of the other things. So what are some of these as a farm is getting into agritourism? And no one has defined it, right? But
Nope.
we kind of have the general sense that agritourism can be weddings. It can be super mega slides and a corn maze and a pumpkin patch, but the pumpkin patch is kind of pick your own. And sunflowers are kind of pick your own, but they're walking around in a field, right? So just kind of as they're adding these different layers, how does the risk challenge change? And what are the key things to do? Let's say somebody calls you brand new. What are you going to kind of walk them through, and what do they need to get to you to make sure that they are getting through the spaghetti of coverage?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to start your application early and have that really open, honest, difficult conversation with your agent. You need to really tell them what you're doing. I just talked to someone today who thought they had a fantastic policy. It was super cheap. And then once they went back and looked at it, they said, "Oh, you're doing this. We don't cover that," and dropped them because they found it on their website or they found it on Facebook. So making sure all of your exposures that you're having that conversation and identifying them up front. And you should have a relationship with your agent to be able to call up and say, "Hey, I've got this idea. I think I want to add reindeer to my farm."
Hmm.
And your agent being able to say, "Okay, your current carrier will let you do that," or "That's a flat out no, we would have to move you." Or if they find it and they don't know about it, that they're going to cancel you midterm and non-renew you. So
Right.
when you're first starting out, absolutely have a summary business plan. Put the dream in there and then have the performa. Definitely break out your revenue streams. That has a huge impact on your premium. We want to see how many people. I always say, like, somebody says, "How much is it going to cost me?" We're rating these policies on how many people you see, how much money you make, and how you make your money. If you're doing food and beverage, that should be on a separate cash line. Gift shop should be on a separate cash line. Attendance, separate. Down to
Interesting.
if you're doing haunted attractions, that stays separate because all of that gets rated differently on the policy. So there's ways, if you come to me with all of your ducks in a row and I can back into your numbers, it's way easier to get you insured. When somebody comes and says, "Well, I think I'm going to do," they're wanting us to move it out. And be realistic with, "I think I'm going to do." Just because you want to do 100,000 in sales, does your parking lot have the capacity to hold those people? Is that thinking of what if you have bad weather? The thing about insurance is you might get audited at the end of the year, depending on the carrier that you're with, but few and far between do you ever get any money back. So I'd rather see you go lower, not untruthful, be truthful with your projections. And if you have a policy that's auditable, get the audit and then take that hit after you've made your money and it's in your pocket. Then you go super high just because you think you're going to do great. And then you're not going to get that money back. So having that the preparation, the summary business plan, the pro forma, having your sales broken out, having really good risk management, all of that together is what makes a good application for insurance. And then talking to an agent that really knows the space and can get you out in front of the right carriers for you, for what you do, and making sure that your attractions, at least for that year, we kind of have to look at things in a 12-month term. If you know you're going to do it this year, then you fit with this carrier. If you grow and next year, then you would need to shop it. But the one
Yeah, and I
thing
think
that
that's something people don't think about is that idea of the disclosure, right? Like where you need to send in a list of absolutely every attraction that you have because you can end up in that situation you were talking about, which is we discovered this, you don't have insurance now, which is a lot worse than I don't think I want to pay for this attraction yet, so I'll just wait till they find me. Getting dropped before the season is is certainly going to be a bigger challenge.
Yep. And they do. They will do some deep dives. AI knows everything now. These underwriters will go on your social media and be careful what you post. They come back to me and one would said, "Well, what about the Christmas trees?" I'm like, wait, we have Christmas trees? Where did they come from? And here they had been added 2 years prior, but we didn't see them. We weren't capturing revenue on them, but this new underwriter got on it and went and did a deep dive. Like that. Sorry about that.
Right, right.
And once the attraction is there and it's all good to go, insured and everything, what kind of signage would you need around it? Not just for the help of the guest, but also for liability protection.
So you always want to have the inherent risk signs at your entrance. And I would say any high attraction activities, so mega slides, your wagons, all kinds of signage around your petting zoos. Um, Directional signage is important, but anything that you have on your farm should have come with a owner's manual. You purchased it. And I know it's agritourism. We build stuff.
That's right. And those inherent risk signs you're talking about, that would typically be, for instance, the Pennsylvania agritourism law on a sign with letters of, all of that is spelled out typically in the state guidelines. Is that correct? Is that what you mean by inherent risk sign?
Yes, every state has, I think there's 4 states that don't have inherent risk right now, but the sign is very, very specific. So you need to look it up. I would encourage everyone to work with their state associations because most of them have the sign already. And it goes all the way down to the size of the font, if it's bold or if it's red. Like it's crazy exclusive, but it's written into the code to avail yourself of that inherent risk law protection that you have to have that sign posted.
Gotcha.
And when the signs are posted and you've had them for, I don't know, maybe a year or so, should you revisit that and update accordingly? Or how often should operators update their signage and their claims?
I think it's a good idea to check each year and see if anything has changed. I'm not really aware of any states that have changed. Well, no, that's not true. I think Virginia changed their inherent risk law. Keeping your finger on the pulse for your state is really important. And if anything has changed at that point, you would change that inherent risk sign. Your attraction signs, you should be looking at those every year before you open.
Gotcha. Yeah, and really plugging into, depending on your state, with Super Mega Slide, we end up working with each individual state. Pennsylvania, has a very involved system, and some states do not. But we are still providing the manual. We're still providing the safety signage, that kind of stuff. As you mentioned, check with those manufacturers. Like they may have the sign, and it could be as simple as just hit print. And then you've put that sign out. Can you speak a little bit about the idea in the insurance business of notification to the public, that kind of why we're talking about all these signs?
That you should know or should have known that it was a hazard. Is that what you mean?
Right.
So when a claim comes in, because we have the inherent risk law for agritourism, the first thing that we're going to do is look and see if you've notified them. Overarching, we have inherent risk, yes. But to say that, okay, the petting zoo, you have to have all the hand washing signs. And it has to be hand washing. It's not just sanitizer because the general public doesn't know the difference. So you have a duty as an operator to know what's going to put them at further risk. So you have to have the signage, and then you have to have the operational protocol behind it.
Gotcha. And I think that is a super important. Just like we have to notify the insurance company, you have to be thinking: have I told the guest that someone with a back problem, a pregnancy, a broken arm should not get on this ride? Right? You would think any person with common sense, right, would do this, but I mean, can you just speak to that? Like, you can't rely on common sense. That
Nope.
isn't going to hold up in court that I assumed anyone would, right?
Nope. And it's never anybody else's fault. It's always yours. And you have to remember, we're farmers. We do these things every day. We trip, we lift things, we go out in the field when it's hot. It's normal for us. These are people that are coming that don't own a pair of boots and don't know that maybe flip-flops might not be the best choice of footwear to go through a corn maze. So you're laughing, but
Or
these
heels
are
to the flower festival, right?
these, or your child is allergic to bee stings and you know this, but you go to the sunflower festival anyway. And then you sue the farm because they got stung by a bee. I really have these claims.
Well, and the other one that goes along with that, and again, I'm not sure we have beat the drum on it quite enough, is the idea. Can you talk a little bit about the idea of the attractive nuisance,
Interesting.
especially around farms, right?
Everything's an attractive nuisance, right? I want to hug the Highland cow.
Yes, he seems miniature, and he
Right? And on YouTube, some girl has him in his bedroom. Why can't I? The thing that comes to mind with that is ponds. That's the biggest attractive nuisance that I can think of. The answer is always depends, but depending on the carrier, some of them want to see them fenced. Some of them are okay with signage. Some of them want attendance around it. And I always go back to nobody knows your property like you do. You're designing your flow so that people are going to be able to get through and everything's going to be safe. But I feel like you can't replace a human being. So they can say they didn't see a sign. They can say they didn't know. But if you have that staff member that is at least can see everything that's going around, like it would be unreasonable to expect a staff member at every single attraction. But if your layout is formatted that you can have maybe a roving staff person near the pond, near the petting zoo, that when they see people do stupid things, when they see them doing something that would put them at risk, that they can do their best to stop the behavior, I think that's really going to go a long way. There's great signage, there's great rules, but you still need the humanity in there.
You need the humanity. That's right. Yeah, I guess I always think the pond is obviously kind of the most attractive nuisance, but I often think, even as we're getting ready for a weekend here, we've kind of gotten in the habit of trying to put things away, right? We don't have the backhoe sitting in the parking lot because that's an attractive nuisance. A kid could get in there, push the button, and it releases the hydraulics and smashes his little brother, right? And that was my fault because I left it's going to be my fault because the backhoe was sitting there and it created an attractive nuisance, right? Farm equipment, chisel plows sitting around. Well, they're just fun things. They're like jungle gyms, right? And that idea of trying to get everything away, I will tell you, some of the older farmers around here do not think that that's the case. But that's what I always think about is, if you got excess equipment and things sitting around, they're playgrounds. They think they're at a playground, right? And you think, well, no one would ever bother with that because it's just the old plow. Well, now it looks like it looks so attractive to go over there and run around and climb on it.
Yeah.
Right, because
You didn't tell me that I didn't.
like we were saying earlier, there wasn't like a lot of people have never been to a farm and they see something like that. They've only seen in movies or anywhere. And they're like, oh, I want to go play on that. And it's not meant to be climbed on.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
I want to touch it. And then it has a rusty edge on it. And then they sue you because it had a rusty edge.
Right. So what have been without, and obviously we would never ask you to name any clients, but what are some general examples of either things that were surprising that have gone wrong, or what are some examples that maybe people aren't thinking about the usual stuff? Everybody's thinking, I don't want to run anybody over with a hayride. Sure, we're all thinking that, but what are some more unusual examples that have popped up, maybe recently even that um may, maybe they didn't see coming?
I think as an industry, we've done very well. This is the best year I've ever had with claims. And it's terrible because my owners will call and about 2 minutes in, we're laughing over the dumb things that people do, but you can't help it. And they're still going to come back and sue you for it. So some of the most common one that I've had this year was slides, and it was either they didn't have a protected exit where when somebody's coming down the slide that they're supposed to go right, left, they're not supposed to cross path of travel, and they just got clogged. Or adults going down and going too fast and trying to stop themselves and breaking bones. So that
Right.
attendant at the top is super important.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 with the candy cannon. You're probably going to see some talk about that they want glasses. And the candy cannon is that I have to leave that up to my operators because that's kind of a personal choice. Do you fire it in the air and then have well, of course you're firing it in the air, but you fire it in the air and the kids are back in a group and then they all come rushing in and run into each other? Or do you let them in the field where it's going to come down and they're looking up and they take a piece of candy in the eye? And I have claims to both effects. So which one is right? But you're probably going to see that they want everybody to wear glasses if you're
Yeah.
using the candy cannon.
Interesting. And candy cans didn't exist like 6 years ago or something. They were invented,
Yeah.
so here's just something brand new and they're super cool. Everybody
loves
loves them.
Yeah.
And
I had a
if an
couple of jump pads and pillows. You have those every year. Following the guidance from the manufacturer on how those are supposed to be operated goes a long way. And I think, again, as an industry, we're getting better at that. So that claim has started to fall off, which makes me very happy.
Good.
that is good.
Yeah.
And if an incident like the candy cannon, candy to the eye, or something like that happens on site, what should the operator do immediately? Like they should absolutely do first step.
So I would say, regardless of what the incident is, your protocol needs to be the same because you can always make a different choice when you're done. But if your SOP is we do this, then you do it all the time. You want to, whoever witnessed it or whoever that person goes to should get a manager on duty or owner. You want to fill out an incident report, and the incident report should be very inclusive. And here again is where we get into a little bit of a challenge. You've got somebody with a screaming, bleeding child who does not want to stand you there and give you their information. But you
Right.
also have staff who probably saw it, maybe a family member. At the very, very basics, at least figure out who it is, because then we've got to go to work and build our case around it. But get your incident report, take pictures of where it happened, get down to the weather, know who was on staff that day, make sure you've got their contact information because your employees are often seasonal and they may change. Make sure you've got an email probably to get hold of them. They might change their cell phone number, witness statements if they're there. And the biggest thing that I can say with that is have a place where they're going for care. Make an arrangement ahead of time with your local urgent care or ER or whatever it is, and that whoever is doing this incident report knows that this is where these people are supposed to go. This is how they get there. How are they getting there? Don't take them yourself. Offer the assistance that you need to and just document the whole situation. And then it becomes another step. Are you making it a claim or are you not? But if you have to, everything's right there for you.
Gotcha. So that's what they should do. What, in general, should they not do? Because now you've got someone screaming, and that raises everybody's blood pressure.
Yeah.
And not everybody is like John here, cool as a cucumber. I mean, what? He's Joe Cool here, but I mean, you can get flustered. So what should they not do if something like this happens?
Definitely try to keep your cool. If you're the person, a lot of times it's these poor young attendants that are trying to navigate this situation. Have somebody that they can call and bring it, even if it's just another employee. Like, put a buffer between the person who was involved in it and the person who's got to get this information. But don't admit risk. Do not give them your insurance information. You are not required to do that. Don't take them to the ER yourself. I mean, there's more to do than not to do. If you're responding to an urgent situation, I don't think anybody can really hold too much against you. But the biggest thing would be don't give them your insurance information. That you're not required to do that, and we would not share that information. It's up to you whether you're going to put in a claim for this incident or not.
Right. And really, if the focus strays from the person who needs care, the redirecting the focus to the person who needs care seems like it's hard to lose if that's your priority, right? And if someone's asking for this or that or yelling at who did what or what, let's just focus on getting this person appropriate care, summoning the ambulance if we need to do that, getting the EMS there if we need to do that. And just keep the focus on care, and then fill out the paperwork while we're waiting.
Yeah, and try not to let Aunt Betty that's standing beside her screaming that she's going to sue you. Just try not to let her into you don't have to acknowledge that. It keeps them calm. I like to say sometimes we like to hope that the world is good. Sometimes they just want a pat on the head, a cookie, and an ice pack, and that is good. So you're allowed to give them minimal care, and you want to show that you acknowledge that it happened. You just don't want to say, oh, that was our fault. Oh, I knew that panel on that slide was loose, man. I've been telling maintenance that I have a claim that's what they did. The attendant guy, the kid was like, yeah, I told the owner that 15 times. Guess where that went? So those are things not to do.
That's right. Yeah, well, and I think you're right, and certainly part of our agritourism manager boot camp. One of the things that we stress is our employees do not have cell phones, but everyone has a radio, and that radio is to get that person who is to be in charge. And we even have, our code blue is the way we get somebody to respond, and they're going to have a clipboard. We have clipboards staged throughout the park. We've got go bags for first aid, and that gets the right person there to determine if we need to, get the next level of EMS, help, or is this a cookie, a bottle of water, and a Band-Aid, right? Yeah. And then I think we should just right now go on the record as covering all the important things here. A very serious podcast episode. That's right.
Oh, you got hurt? Cookie.
That's right.
Well,
That's right. I have no idea how that happened.
Filling out that incident report is kind of an art, because that first line that it says on there is what's going to go on the claim. And then it can make the difference of how many zeros are on that reserve.
Wow.
You want to be very, very cautious.
Talk about a reserve for a minute. I don't know if everybody knows that term, go on a reserve. So let's say that there has been an incident and it's something that needs to be notified. Somebody needs to get a report to you. Talk about that reserve and kind of the process that happens afterwards, because I think everyone is terrified of it, but it really is just a long-term process. So just kind of walk them through step by step what's going to happen. If I fill out this report and man, I got to call Kim on this one, I email it to you. What happens then on your side of things after that?
So if you decide that you're going to file the claim, we'll give the carrier notice and we'll give them all of your information wrapped up in a bow. And we try to build our case before we even submit it, because the worst thing you can do is have them come back and piecemeal asking for stuff. We're very intent to make sure they know that we have inherent risk protection. So the more you educate them, we're not as helpless as we used to be. So the claim goes in, they file it, they assess it, and they say, okay, this might cost us X. And then they start getting bills or notices of demand or whatever from the other side. The reserve is how much they hold out from your occurrence limit on your insurance policy. Your insurance policy has an occurrence limit and it has an aggregate limit. Occurrence is
Mhm.
how much you can draw at one time, usually $1 million. If you have a policy for less than $1 million, please go change it to $1 million because it doesn't do you any good. So that reserve stays there until the claim is closed, depending on the carrier and their defense team. That could be as fast as 6 weeks, or it could take as long as
Wow.
6 years.
Interesting.
And that number fluctuates. I've never seen it go down. I've only seen it go up. But that's the hold against that policy. And it absolutely is against you until the claim is closed. So I have one that we had a very low reserve on it and it's been posting for a while. And now out of the blue, it's an astronomical number that we now have to bear for the next 5 years. So it's an important number that is decided on by our side from your adjuster and the attorneys that are on our defense. And
Well,
they literally have a menu of a broken leg is worth this is worth this.
Gotcha. I don't know if the structure of everything is always clear. Insurance is just something you have to have. I feel like, I have a bizarre exposure to the insurance industry in that I sold insurance for a while and still keep my license around just for kicks. And it was kind of the best first job I could have, then getting into this job just for some inkling of an understanding of how all of this stuff works. And one of the ways I think of it is, and even in the interactions that I've had when we've had a claim way back in the early 2000s, no time recently, Kim,
No, you've been on very good behavior.
nothing recent.
Thank you.
Knock on wood.
There's a lot of knocking going around, but was that the insurance company really is on our side. Like, you are not the enemy, right? You are on our side. Like you're saying, you're going to help me. You're going to tell me, get a picture of every time you had a sign. Give me a picture of the rule sign. Get me a picture of the training. Get me a picture of that you trained the kids. Get me, when did they sign off on their training? When did they get right? You're going to have me get all of that together so that we make the absolute best case for our company. But then our company is on our side.
Yes.
Their job is to defend us. Sometimes I think of it like a prepaid legal fund. Really, they want to defend us, and they're counting on us to do a good job, to have told them about all of these things. Like, I feel like there's this kind of adversarial relationship with our own company, which of course doesn't make any sense.
I think it's definitely gotten better. The last 4 or 5 years, we have the benefit of the IALDA attorneys that are involved in our space now. And it's the attraction defense attorneys, and they've taught at NAFTMA a couple of times, Sarah and Joan. And it's awesome because, like, now they know what a Caltrain is, and they know what a super mega slide is, and they know what a mini zip line is, and it's not a real zip line or priced-in zip line. So they speak the language. But even more than that, they are pros at defending the attraction industry, and they are our defense. So, and they're involved with all of these carriers that are writing attraction, because that's what we are. We're an attraction industry. So those are the carriers that are insuring us. So now they have their own defenses, attorneys, but now we've got IALDA who can step in and say, yes, and this is how we take care of this kind of claim, because this is the risk management that went with us, because they have taken the time to learn who we are. And that is it's a tremendous boost to the defense. So if I'm shopping for a carrier, I'm almost leaning into how they're defending claims as much as what their premiums are. Because what good does it do you to pay all that money if they're just going to roll over? So they are on the side, right? And that used to be the case. It used to be when I got a call for a claim, you could hear the fear in somebody's voice because they were so afraid they were going to get dropped. Because we are more educated and more risk averse, it's not the story anymore.
Right. Now, I'm curious, we've both been around the industry, let's just say it that way, for a while, a couple of years, but we're still young and fabulous. But
I was a redhead when I started.
I had hair when I started. That was neat.
I still have hair.
We got Rookie John here with his fabulous locks. Unbelievable. Jiminy Pats. That was as good as I could do for us. The other thing that I'd like you to just kind of give us the big picture on, I think there is the feeling out there that the insurance industry just gets a wild thought and they don't want farms anymore. And then they get a wild thought and they go, we all want farms now. And then they get another thought and they go, no campgrounds. And then they go, give us all the campgrounds. And there's like this, it feels like from the outside that there is this cyclical nature, where kind of the whole industry is moving. And I know you can't explain that or why it happens, but maybe just give us a little of the grand historical insurance thing. And then kind of how does it affect little old operators like me?
And that absolutely is the truth, because we are a part of the attraction industry, and there's carriers that is in appetite for. When they look at agritourism, the common fear anytime I talk to a new carrier was, no, that's all homemade stuff. We don't want that. So they would, that they're already at no. So educating them that that's not necessarily the case, now they're interested. Now they're looking at volume. How many do we have? How much premium is associated with that? And that's where you're finding the ones jumping in. Because you're like, oh, there's how many farms? There's how much premium in here? Okay, we'll play. And then they get in, and it's almost like an adverse selection. They don't do the due diligence over the farms that they're going to take. And they may take on ones that don't have good risk management and that are not big enough to bear the premium of a loss. So a smaller $1,500 farm they're paying in premium has a claim for $80,000, $100,000. That's a lot of money to make up. And unfortunately, we're all in that pot. So they're looking at it all together, and it does continue to churn. Every year we negotiate and try to get some more carriers that are interested in writing in the space. And then it seems like they run for about 2 years and they say, yeah, we tried. Nope, didn't work for us. And they're out. We have a major carrier that is exiting the space this year. So be prepared if you have, I would say, under $3,000 in premium, and start looking at your insurance, because that carrier got burned and they're out.
This episode is sponsored by the Hen House Hustle, and trust me, it's exactly what your guests are looking for. Fun, memorable, and built to keep people coming back. Learn more at thehenhousehustle.com. And now back to the show. Today's episode is brought to you by the Animal Racers. Ready to add a big thrill to your park? Find out how at animalracers.com. And now, back to the show. This episode is sponsored by the Super Mega Ride and Slide. Guests go down, profits go up. If you're looking to create an unforgettable experience that keeps people coming back and drives serious revenue while you're at it, this might be exactly what your business needs. For more information, go to supermegarideandslide.com. And now back to the show.
And we are back. So how does business structure, so like an LLC versus a sole proprietor or something like that, impact liability exposure?
So it's not necessarily the exposure, it's how the policy is going to respond. You want to make sure that your policy is written to the correct operating entity. If you are an LLC, which I favor, there's a clause in your insurance policy that says who is an insured. And under that clause, it's going to say that owners are covered as an insured. But
so, for instance, mine is nearly as complex as can possibly be, because that's how I roll. So, for instance, the farm is a C corp, and the maize company is an S corp that leases land from the C corp. And how do you keep things from getting confused? Both have farm policies. Mine has a commercial general liability policy, like you've been talking about, because of the public exposure. How should those things interact so that we don't end up with some kind of wacky gap in coverage?
And that split of of entity is very popular. Highly recommend it because you are protecting the landowning entity and the operating entity, and the kind of insurance that both of those need are different. One thing that we are seeing, and I have 4 claims on it now, very commonly, we're going to take your operating entity and we're going to name the landowner as an additional insured. Everybody does it. That means if that landowner got sued for anything that had to do with the operations of the agritourism policy or entity, that policy is meant to respond on their behalf, right? What we're seeing now is these plaintiffs' attorneys are going and they're suing the land-owning entity either first and alone, which has nothing to do with operations, or they're putting them into the suit with our operating entity. So they're naming both our operating entity and the landowner on the same claim. But the gap that we're seeing in coverage is you have a contractor, you should have a written contract between your operating entity and your landowner. That's the corporate veil. That's why you did what you did. So in that contract, more than likely, there's something that says me, the operating entity, is responsible for everything that happens during operations and also grounds maintenance, 9 times out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
So unless the suit comes in that has something that the landowning entity has a responsibility to do, there's no way to be absolutely certain that our operating entity is going to be able to respond on their behalf. And I know that's super, super complicated. And that's probably why I now have 4 claims, because it is so far down the rabbit hole of chasing coverage. But the short way to say it is that the plaintiff's attorneys are looking for money everywhere they can possibly get it. And if they do it this way, they could possibly get access to 2 different policy limits. So
Gotcha.
the best way to fix that is to, if you have a landowner as a separate entity, that landowner should have something called lesser's risk on their policy, so that if they had to defend it, that policy would respond. And it's not expensive.
Gotcha. Well, and I will just come clean as the example for all. You've hit on it exactly. I think a lot of these rental things happen without contracts. The operating company rents the land and whatever. Now, I have one, and it's not signed for this year yet, and we're in April of this year, right? And so keeping up to date on those contracts, that's kind of the first veil, right? Is there an official contract that says you're going to lease it for this and that we're going to release and hold harmless and blah, blah, blah. All of the contractual stuff that a lawyer should make up, by the way. You should be doing this on your own or chat GPT in it. That's right. Please get that. So that contract first, but now you're saying the landowner needs something called lessor's risk.
It's a coverage.
And that provides them
super
coverage.
Common. Yeah, it's super common on farm policies at like Farm Bureau and all those guys. Because if you think about it, a lot of the farms have like dwellings that they're renting out and things like that. It's a super, super easy. It's a normal thing. It's easy. Any agent can write that.
That's right. Not the super highly specialized, extraordinary special agent level agent that we're talking to now, because we only talk to the top.
I mean, I can write it too, but it should be really easy to explain to any generalist that you want a lesser's risk.
Lesser's risk. Interesting. Well, and it's just interesting to make sure that it's in there because sure, if you've picked up a couple of farms along the way, they came with a house, now you're renting that house out, and you certainly don't want any exposure from your tenants.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
always in my entire career, I said, well, they're additional insured on our policy. Our policy is going to take care of them, right? The devil's in the details. There's a contract that says that you can't because weren't my dog. It wasn't their responsibility to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, John, so this leads us into John's question about vendors and third party kind of risks here.
Yeah. So what are some implications with insurance by allowing vendors and third-party operators onto your farm or your site?
You mean like food trucks
Like
and
food-
like craft fair and stuff like
yeah,
that?
craft fair, food trucks, or even like those giant inflatable bouncy houses, like you rent them for a party or something like that.
You guys and your inflatables.
Not us. We only have jump pads, and only jump pads. But I'm asking. John's asking for a friend.
It's just
Okay,
for the people to
so-
know.
What if there's a hypothetical situation in which
hypothetically.
something like this happened?
So we're going to pretend we didn't hear the inflatable thing. Subcontractors in general, you want to make sure that they have their own insurance with matching limits. At the very least, that they're giving you a certificate of insurance. You're going to ask to be added on as an additional insured. And if you can really get it, you want a waiver of subrogation, because that's saying that just like I was just saying about the lesser's risk, that's who goes first and who's responsible in the event of a claim. Policy is going to respond if they got sued, but if they're on your premise, the farm's getting pulled in. So you want that additional insured status so that we can force their policy to respond. And then the waiver of subrogation says, okay, you took it, you handled it, you had a terrible outcome, and you've got a great big award on there. You cannot subrogate that back to us. We're not taking it. You got the whole thing. And there's actually
Okay, I have so many questions. This is so fascinating.
I know.
Okay, I think
And let me make it
I think we need to just check in on A, matching limits is part one. B, do we have to get all this stuff for a food truck?
Absolutely.
And C, can we put a waiver of subrogation in the food truck contract that they sign that says I'm coming?
They can't waive the coverage, only their insurance company can.
Interesting.
I mean, they can sign it, but is it going to hold up? Probably not.
Okay, so all right, matching limits.
I wouldn't say that
What
that's
does
a
that
deal
mean?
breaker. Right? The waiver of subrogation, it depends what's going to happen with the claim. You're paying for a policy and you want it to do its work. We're just trying to make it as armored up as we can. That would be the best that you can do. At the least, you need a certificate of insurance to prove that these guys are insured.
Yep, certificate of insurance. Matching limits. What did you mean by that?
So you are going to have 1 million occurrence, 2 million aggregate. They need to have also 1 million occurrence, 2 million aggregate. And a lot of times they're buying it like on Next or online or something, and they'll sell 300 or 500 for an occurrence. That means they're running out of money at 300.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Interesting. And then I had something else here, and I wrote it so fast I can't read it. So we don't have to answer that one because I have no idea what that says. Landowner is clearly
Don't ask me.
genius thought. That could have been the key to everything. John, that could have been the key, but I spelled it wrong. Okay. All right. So certificate of insurance, even for, I know this is not happening. All right. I mean, I think this is a message that we got to get out there, is that even that food truck rolling in, you got to have that certificate of insurance at least showing what you got, right? Showing the limits. The certificate of insurance, will it show their limits?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And we should have that prior to them even showing up to the farm, correct?
Absolutely. You should have a written contract and you should have that cert on file, and that it doesn't expire before your event is over.
Right. Now, to be fair, say you had a favorite 3 food trucks that came every weekend in the fall. You get this all lined up for the season, and it doesn't expire. You don't have to be doing this every week. You just do it once a season.
Just once a year.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, well, I think that's pretty good. So let's say something goes terribly wrong at the food truck. They dump the delicious Brunswick stew out the window onto a finely dressed lady and burn her. What happens? It's on your property.
You're additional insured, so we're going to their policy. They're going to put a claim in against you and the food truck, but we're going there first.
Right, but it still should be, I mean, we should be prepared with our incident form. We can't trust these food truck people.
Anything that happens on premise, you want to hold the reins on that.
Yes.
So you're going to do your incident report. You're still going to treat it like you normally would. Like whoever is the MOD, they don't need to get into the intricacies of who's going to end up paying a claim. They just need to treat every single incident the same.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right, we're almost out of time, but John had one more question on scaling because he knows how much I like to grow.
So, how do insurance needs evolve as an agritourism business grows? So, like, how does the need for insurance evolve the bigger and bigger, or the smaller, but hopefully not, you get?
I can't get any smaller. I'd be Kim size if I were any smaller.
But yeah, like, how does the need for insurance evolve? Like, does it become more necessary, less necessary, or is it always the same throughout the entire process?
I think that need is there the moment that you decide you're going to allow the public on. Appetite wise, you can probably coast with a farm carrier until you add a jump pad or pillow. That's usually the one that kicks you up into commercial insurance. And then limit wise, again, don't ever buy anything less than $1 million. And more than that, it's really hard to say what you need for limits. That's the most challenging part of what I do is I usually say, if you have a people leader, like something that has a lot of people on it at one time, you need to be looking at buying an umbrella. And we do have these astronomical awards. It's so litigious right now. So you could exceed that 1 million. So you can insure yourself to death, but you can never buy enough.
That is correct. That's how my dad feels. So you can insure yourself to death. Now, I'm not Mary Poppins, but I'm not sure everybody understands what an umbrella is and how that functions with the other policies. So just give us the little 101 course on umbrellas and where you use them and why and how.
So an umbrella or an excess policy goes over top of your general liability. So it will go over top of your general liability, your employer's liability, and your auto liability and liquor liability if you have it. I can't think of off the top of my head of any other liability policies, but it would add to. So typically it's at least $1 million limit. So you have $1 million that you can use on either side. You can use it on the occurrence if it happened. If you had $1 million, if you had a $1.5 million award, they won and you've got to pay it out. Your policy, your general liability is going to pay the $1 million. And then your umbrella is going to come in and it's going to pay that other $500,000. Without an umbrella, that $500,000 is out of pocket because they awarded it. You still have to pay it. It can also go to the aggregate limit if you had, God forbid, more than the 2 million, which is typical. If you have more than two $1 million awards, you used up the 2 million in one policy period. The umbrella could also come in and pick that up. But when you think about it, that umbrella is going over your auto, your ETF, your employers, your liquor, all of that. So it's an important coverage to have because you don't know where things could go south and you don't know where that money could end up going. So to me, it's better than trying to increase policy limits because the umbrella takes care of everything.
And typically affordability wise, umbrellas are actually pretty efficient, right?
It used to be, it's changed. They're a little bit harder to achieve now because we have these nuclear verdicts that are actually making it into the umbrella. So the premium for the umbrella is based on the premium of the underlying general liability. That's what they will rate it on.
Gotcha. Well, this has been, I hope, interesting. I actually have learned some stuff.
Yeah.
And like I say, I probably have as much exposure. I have exposed myself to as much insurance as possible.
Okay, I was going to say,
I was waiting all the whole time for all those jokes.
You got to finish that sentence.
You don't want to pause it right there along the way. And would it be all right for us to share your contact information? Because I think people are going to have some questions about stuff. And I know you insure tons of people in the industry, but I mean, you'd talk to anybody, wouldn't you?
Yes, please. Please share it. I'm happy to help. I love startups because getting in there and having that advisor and that relationship from the beginning, or if you've got questions on what you've got, send it to me. I'll give you an honest answer. I want to see the industry continue to grow and succeed.
Well, and my encouragement would be, even if you have a really good farm agent, if you're into agritourism or you're starting weddings or you're opening a winery, you need a different kind of agent. And that doesn't mean your current agent is bad.
Right.
It just means you better go with a specialist. You can't rely on someone who does not do this every single day. And like you're saying, verdicts are going crazy. People are, I mean, it's just, it's kind of lunacy out there. I mean, the great thing is, though, as you said, it's been an incredible year with very few reported claims. And you cover a wide portion of the business, haunts and campgrounds and farms. I mean, you're not only in one little niche. I feel like you kind of have a better look at the entertainment environment. And I would just encourage people, it's worth a call. Doesn't mean you have to switch agents, but if they don't know what you're talking about, you need to talk to somebody else at least. I know we did when we had to find other people when we did our winery, and with liquor liability, and even just talking through that business structure. I mean, I'm going to make a call and just make sure that we've got our lesser's risk on there. Why take a chance? That would sure be foolish to take a chance now that we know. Is there any, insurance is so negative.
No, it's good.
With a wonderful outlook and view that maybe can just help soften people's potentially negative view of the insurance and the liability industry. What can we end on positive?
I am so happy and proud of the growth and the direction that we are going in as an industry. We have more carriers that are writing, and I've been doing it for 10 years. So more carriers are interested in who we are and what we do, and they're hearing a positive message. Our loss exposure, they run that every year. They check, and they're like, how'd that happen? We're headed in the right direction. Y'all are doing good things for good families. They're coming back year after year. It doesn't need to be scary. Just keep being conscious in what you do, and it's fine. Everything's fine. It's all good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Miss Kim.
Yes, thank you.
No.
That's a wrap for Positive Business Action, and we shall see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Positive Business Action. If this episode gave you a useful idea, take a second to follow the show, leave a quick rating, or share it with someone who could use it too. That's what helps this show reach more people who are building something meaningful. You can find links to full episodes, resources, and ways to connect with us in the show notes. Until next time, keep moving forward, keep improving, and keep taking positive business actions.